You are now tuned in to the Chaotic Culture Podcast.
It's the KKP on your mother flipping airways. Hear the name ringing through the halls and the stairways. You were listening to a pod that can segue. All the latest topics guaranteed to fill your headspace. It's a safe place to voice your opinion. Say what you feel just like you're a kid again. Kid to pro and friends, black as obsidian. Chaotic culture, that's the world we living in. So what's the word?
And good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast, the pod where chaos rules and black culture is supreme. This is your boy, Ked the Pro, aka the Calculated Millennial, aka the Encore Presentation.
Can I get an encore? Do you want more?
AKA your favorite toxic adjacent king, Ked the Poet, Ked the Closer, all that good stuff. 843 is me, Baltimore's the place to be. Always chaotic, never toxic on most days, and back again once again with your favorite black culture highlights and black culture shenanigans. This past week was WrestleMania 41. And so I definitely wanted to actually give my thoughts on a podcast platform as opposed to giving my thoughts on social media and just typing it out like that. The Triangle officer, unfortunately, they're busy tonight. I believe that JB has a meeting at this very moment, and I think Vonnie is still trying to recover from travels. I may have O, aka Umar Solo, aka the O that you should know, pop in, but that's either hit or miss. We'll see. Also, I want to try and get this done as quickly as possible because obviously we usually drop on Tuesdays, and here I am dropping it on a Wednesday, recording this as of Tuesday night as we speak, which means I'm probably going to miss the first bit of NXT, but then I'm just going to obviously rewind and watch it back. But I definitely wanted to get this episode out, and I'm going to try and be quick because I have 21 matches to get to between NXT Stand and Deliver and both nights of WrestleMania 41. So if you are a wrestling fan, wrestling nerd, and you want to hear my opinions, of course, obviously, please be sure that you let me know what those opinions are. If you liked it, if you disliked it, leave your comments in the video. If you are watching on YouTube, please be sure that you will like the video, subscribe to the Chaotic Culture Podcast, hit that notification bell, and please be sure that you share it amongst your friends. We do talk about black topics, and speaking of black topics, I will have to say this for next time. Obviously, I did not see Sinners yet, so please, I am trying to avoid spoilers like the plague. Please, no spoilers. I kid you not. Do not spoil me on that movie. I want to enjoy it. I could also talk about the little incident with Shannon Sharp, and good knows that's yikes. That is a yikes moment. But I really wanted to talk about wrestling, the wrestling environment and culture, and of course, some of the stuff that went on that was great, and then some of the stuff that I just have to scratch my head on, because wrestling fan bases can be tribalistic and also just be very weird. You've got some amazing fans out there, though. Don't get me wrong, like fans of whether there's WWE, AEW, TNA, or whatever the case may be. If you're a fan of wrestling, then that is great. Just please keep the tribalism at home. I'm not so high on the E or the Fed, as we like to call them, that I can't criticize them. And it's the same thing with AEW. I enjoy the matches on AEW, but their ability to storytell is, yeah. And in TNA, I really have a hard time trying to catch them on TV. But the stuff that I do watch from TNA is nothing short of phenomenal. But the backstage politics of TNA right now is in complete disarray. So it's just kind of it's a lot of stuff going on. And then with WWE pretty much being, having some people in leadership just coming out and saying that they support a certain person, it really just makes me wish that people just kept things to themselves anymore. The less I know about you as far as wrestling, the better. Because if I find out that you like or enjoy certain politics, I'm just not going to look at you the same, i.e. Roman Reigns. So anyway, with that being said, I do want to at least start off by giving my review of WWE Stand and Deliver, which was the NXT PLE that happened on Saturday afternoon. Now, I just want to say that right now, NXT has been doing extremely well with Shawn Michaels at the helm producing the show. It has been phenomenal from top to bottom. Sometimes I'm more interested in NXT than I am on the main roster stuff. It's gotten to the point now where NXT Black and Gold back in those days when Triple H was leading it, yeah, they had my full attention more so than the main roster. And then, of course, that died down when Triple H was had the heart condition or the cardiac event. And then Vince and Bruce Pritchard basically took over NXT. And yeah, there was some parts that I'm like, okay, well, I know that they want to focus on developmental, but a lot of these people in like just the characters themselves and the story booking and the storylines themselves was just kind of odd. And so the hype died down for a minute. But then when, of course, you know who Vince was pretty much ejected from the company, and then, or when he retired the first time, I should say. And then we had Shawn Michaels pretty much take over as the head of creative for NXT. Now you're starting to see some actual development. They're still trying to keep with the developmental process, but they're making it a fun and engaging TV show instead of a snooze fest. So with that in mind, NXT has been putting on some bangers, and Stand and Deliver as a show was absolutely phenomenal. I think that they completely stole the weekend. So gunshots for that. Let's talk about it match by match. Let's start off with the pre-show match, which was the elimination tag match between the Meta Girls, Fatal Influence, which included JC Jane and Fallon Henley. You had the team of Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley, and of course, you had the team of Cora Jade and the Prodigy Roxanne Perez. Now, the one thing that I was upset about this particular match, the Meta Girls were eliminated way too quickly. I thought, well, if they're gonna go, that's fine, but pretty much they didn't really do much, man. We didn't really get to see them highlighted, which is kind of a shame. I do think that means that they're getting close to a main roster debut, and I still don't know why they're still going by metaphor at this point, because I have no idea where Noam Dar is. I think he's still like legit injured. And then the other guy, and just like that, his name escapes me like that. But the other person who was part of Metaphor, I don't even know if he's like still on TV. He might be in Evolve. I'm not 100% sure. But still, I think the Meta Girls can just go ahead and do their own thing at this point. And I think that they can definitely make a name for themselves on the main roster. I still have like really no interest in Fatal Influence as your typical bad girl group that in this case is not really all that successful. They're not like Toxic Attraction, which was widely successful. Fatal Influence is just kind of there just to be there. But anyway, with that in mind, I will say that outside of the elimination of Lash, which was like really, really early, I was a little disappointed in that. But this match was fine for what it was. And I think it sets up what it does is it sets up the women's tag team bout that's actually supposed to be happening tonight on NXT between the winners of this match and the champions, who at the time of this recording, the champions are Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Almost a real last name out there. So Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, in their fourth reign, they just won the titles back off of Lyra Valkyria and her quote unquote mystery partner, because it was supposed to be Bailey, but I'll get to that. Anyway, Cora Jade is left all alone because Roxanne walks out on her. So that is pretty much setting up, I think, and I hope to be Roxanne's last feud on NXT, because she could have gone up to the main roster like yesterday. But either way, it gives them a blow-off match. It puts Cora over, and I think that we're going to see another face turn for Cora Jade. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, the match ends with a little bit of miscommunication from Fatal Influence. Fatal Influence tried to cheat. They tried to flip the pin over, but the ref got back to the spot too late to where they kicked out. And then it ended with Cemetery Drive, which is the combination of Tatum Paxley's little move that she does and what looks like I guess, I want to say an STO from Gigi Dolan. I know that she usually does like the crucifix bomb, but I think that that's her way of adding to the move. So there is Cemetery Drive, and the winners of the match were Tatum Paxley and Gigi Dolan. I like the Rock Girls, is what I'm going to call them, or the Powerpuff Girls, as some people call them. I do like Tatum Paxley and Gigi Dolan. I think Gigi, had suffered a few injuries that caused some setbacks, but I have been a fan of Gigi's for a while when she was still going by her other name in the Indies. So shout out to them for actually winning the match. I give this match like a solid B minus. I think that it was fine for what it was. And again, it was on the Stand and Deliver pre-show. So I think for what they gave, they really did put on quite the performance. And I like the strategy, or like the story, excuse me, that they told. Next, we have the North American Championship with Ricky Saints and All Ego Ethan Page. This was actually the match to kick off Stand and Deliver proper. This match was great from start to finish. The story that these two told between each other, from being in the other company, AEW, to where they are now, of Ethan Page finding some jealousy that Ricky was able to do what he did, become a champion so quickly, and Ethan pretty much just being a thorn in Ricky Saints' side from start to finish, from the time that he got in to even within the match. One of the biggest things that Ethan Page focused on, of course, was his back. He wanted to be sure that he caused as much pain to Ricky Saints' back as possible. Pause. Don't go there. And yeah, this was very, very hard-hitting match. I liked the way that this happened. Of course, the end of the match saw Ricky Saints kick out of Eagle's Edge. And before Ethan Page could hit him with his new finisher, Twisted Grin, which is pretty much just the twist of fate, he, of course, was able to hit a spear and then catch him in the Rochambeau for the victory. You could see the blood coming out of Ricky's mouth, bro, because he was busted in the mouth. Like he really got hit pretty hard. There was a spot where Saints tried to do an outside dive, but Ethan Page moved and he ended up going back first on the table, which is why Ethan started tagging him on there. And it was just a lot. The one thing that I did not like about this match was, of course, the fans yelling out Tony fumbled. And I get why the fans would do that. But again, please leave the tribalism at home. These performers have, I'm just glad that wrestlers are able to go and have jobs pretty much after this. And Ricky even requested that the fans stop saying that. But, obviously there are certain people who are just not going to listen because tribalism. But either way, it was still a phenomenal match. And Ricky proved that he can be the next cog in this division. So overall, that match for me, that was a solid B plus, A minus on the high range, but still, I think that they told an incredible story. You see the tug of war between these two. You see the jealousy coming off of Ethan Page, and yeah, these two just really, really put on a very, very, very good opener. Let's get to the NXT Tag Team Championship match between Fraxium versus Hank and Tank. Now, Fraxium has been the best tag team in WWE for the last year and a half, bar none. These two can go. Nathan Frazier and Axiom are really, really, really strong. And I really hope that they get up to the main roster, specifically Monday Night Raw, because that tag division is dead and non-existent. But this match, I was a little hesitant because Hank and Tank are still a fairly new tag team. And yeah, as opposed to experience level, obviously they don't have the experience of Nathan Frazier and Axiom. But what I will say is that Hank and Tank made me fans that night. The performance that they put on was absolutely incredible. They were able to keep up in a fast-paced match. This was just wow. And of course you see that Hank and Tank focus more on power moves, but just the fact that they still had the intensity and the drive and the cardio to keep up with the speed that Fraxine was trying to dictate, absolutely phenomenal. There was one spot where it was kind of a repeat of what Ricky Saints did, but you saw Hank diving, doing a tope suicida through the ropes, and Fraxim getting out of the way, and this man literally lands on the table in a perfect belly flop. That had me dying, but the fact that he hit it so perfectly, chef's kiss. I kid you not. That was a great landing, and I'm just glad nobody got hurt. Of course, Frazier and Axiom tried to hit their finish, but at the very, very, very last minute, Hank was able to roll off that table and break up the pin. This was just literally just fast-paced. I was just amazed. There was one spot where Frazier helped Axiom over the ropes for a head scissors tank down on Hank, and then he threw Hank into Tank on the floor. That shit blew my mind. Like, wow. This is just that it was incredible. And at the end, honestly, they hit their Hank and Tank was able to get that momentum. They were able to Hank dive onto, I believe it was Axiom to knock him out. Then, of course, they got into the ring, hit their big honk honk, and do the the two dudes doing the belly, I guess, attack, whatever you want to call it. And then they hit their finisher, which is like that running power slam, bull hammer combo, and they ended up getting the 1, 2, 3. And your new NXT Tag Team Champions are Hank and Tank. What an amazing story, especially the comeback that Hank and Tank had to go through. They were like on a 6-match losing streak, and then they entered the gauntlet match and started from the beginning and were able to just go the distance to win the +1 contender spot. And now they were rewarded for their efforts, and now they are the new NXT Tag Team Champions. So this match, A+. A+. Let's get to the Women's North American Championship ladder match. If you have been keeping up with the stories, Stephanie Vaquer ended up vacating the title so she could just focus on the NXT Women's Championship. So the mid-card title was up for grabs in a ladder match. And in this ladder match, it was, if I'm not mistaken, you had Zarya, Lola Vice, Thea Hale, Izzy Dame, Kalani Jordan, and Sol Ruka, who were these were all 6 competitors for this women's match. Now, I will say that the match was good. It was really, really good. It could have been better. I think that they really played it safe this time. There were not like a lot of crazy spots. There were certainly there were some bumps, but there just weren't like a lot of crazy bumps that we typically see in ladder matches. This wasn't a full-on car crash. This was more like a fender bender, if you want to call it that. But the match was still good. Don't get me wrong. There were a couple of moments that I really, really liked about this match. There was the where Lani moonsaulted onto both Sol Ruka and Lola Vice on the outside, then sent Dame into into the ladder with a standing leg drop, and then planted like Zarya on another ladder. It was really, really crazy sequence of events. One of the biggest moments I think really came at the end though, where you had Zarya and Sol Ruka both going to the title, and there can only be one. And Zarya looked like she had knocked Sol Ruka off, but then like Sol Ruka literally did like a backwards roll and mule kicked her off the top of the ladder, and then was able to do a soul snatcher to one opponent off the ladder, run back into a corner, and then catch. I know Lola Vice. She caught Lola Vice, and I believe it was Kalani with with a double soul snatcher, and then she was able to climb the top of the ladder. And Sol Ruka is now your new NXT Women's North American Champion. And shout out to Black women. For those who don't know, Sol Ruka is Black. She got a black daddy, so she Black. And in any case, there was also a spot where the Cullen came out to help Izzy, and Thea Hale was like on top of the ladder, and of course the ladder got tipped, and Thea Hale did like this huge, the crossbody to the outside onto the Cullen and whatnot, pretty much taking them out the match. So definitely shout out to the girls. Good to see Thea Hale is back. But yeah, this is Sol Ruka's crowning achievement. Sol Ruka definitely deserved that win. And she is currently also a double champion because she won the Speed Championship the prior week. So shout out to Sol Ruka. Next, we have the D'Angelo family and Dark State. This match was really good for what it is. This was probably the one I was the least excited for, but honestly, they told a story in the match. Now, if you've been keeping up with the story with Dark State and the D'Angelo family, obviously, Stax wanted to, go through with his plans to attack Dark State, but he kind of lost the trust of Tony, and Tony was just like, please don't do this, we're going with my plans and whatnot. And we could see that Stax plans actually failed. But otherwise, like, this match really, I'm just going to say this really didn't have, it had no business being as good as it was. I think that on paper, people are like, oh, okay, whatever, it is what it is. But this match ended up being really good. And shout out to Dark State for the 4 men that have actually form this stable. They came in and they showed that they're ready to go. They're ready for the spotlight of NXT. So I can't wait to see what these 4 men do next. There was a point in the match where Stacks was in the match longer and he couldn't really tag out the way he wanted to because Dark State kept beating him up. And Tony just was kind of like, hey, this is your punishment for, not listening to me and not trusting me. So there's that. But in a part of the match, we saw that Stacks had introduced the crowbar. He wanted to use it. Tony said no. It just caused a whole bunch of ruckus. We had a position where this was a good fake out. It looked like Stacks was going to hit Tony D'Angelo with the crowbar, but he doesn't. Instead, he gives it to the ref, and we think, oh, it's all good. They've earned their trust again. Only for Stacks to low blow him while the ref was getting the crowbar out of the ring. So Stacks did turn heel. He left the ring and watched as Dark State pretty much picked up Tony and did their assisted triple power bomb. It's not like a true power bomb where all 3 of them are like that. You have 2 members throwing them to the other person, and the other person catches them in a power bomb. So yeah, shout out to Dark State for winning the match. This really solidifies them as the next male heel group. And as for the D'Angelo family, we're supposed to be getting word on what happens later tonight. So overall, I think that this match was a solid B. It was definitely surprising, and the way that these groups went at each other, and the way these tag teams went out with each other, it definitely told a great story in the ring. So yeah. That was that. There was a little segment there where Penn and Teller made the Heritage Cup disappear from Lexus King, and I hope that doesn't mean that they're retiring the Heritage Cup Championship. There's a way that you can do that. I really do hope that they still continue with the championship, or if they're not going to do that, turn it into a belt. But don't take away the Heritage Cup Championship. But I think that the reason why they're doing it is because I don't think they're doing like the British rounds matches anymore, which it's kind of disappointing because I actually do like those. It actually adds a different element to the wrestling show, but it ain't my call, clearly. So next we have the Fatal 4-Way for the NXT Women's Championship. This Fatal 4-Way included, of course, Jada Parker, Jordan Grace, Julia, and La Primera, the champion, Stephanie Vaquer. And this was a great match. It could have been better. There were certain things that could have gone better, but one thing that I liked about this match is that you didn't have like one person focusing on just another person at one time while the other 2 take a break. All 4 women were included in this match, and I think that kind of fluidity and continuity needs to continue. Like when you have multi-man matches, have all 3 or all 4 just involved. Don't have downtime where it's just a one-on-one match for a minute and then have the other person come back after a one-on-one segment. Like have all 4 of them involved in the match somehow. Also, there was this was also like kind of a finisher spot fest at the very end. We saw that like Jordan Grace had caught Julia with what she calls beast mode now instead of the Juggernaut driver. But then she took the hypnotic from Jada Parker. Jada Parker went to go pin Jordan Grace after she hit Julia with another hypnotic. But then Stephanie Vaquer came off the top rope and did a spiral tap. And then she hit Jada Parker. At first, it looked like she was struggling, but then she was able to get her up for the SVB for the win. So big shout out to Stephanie Vaquer. She had an amazing Monday night match with Io Sky. And if you have not seen that, please go on Netflix and watch that match. Granted, it ends in a no contest, but the match itself is still phenomenal. But once again, shout out to Stephanie Vaquer for retaining the NXT Women's Championship. And then finally, for Stand and Deliver, we had Obafemi versus Trick Williams versus Javon Evans. And yeah, this was one of a great triple threat match and might be match of the night. And that's really hard to say that because that tag team match was absolutely insane. But this was definitely contender for match of the night and might be match of the weekend. The triple threat was crazy. So you have Obafemi versus Trick Williams versus Javon Evans. There was a crazy spot where like Javon hopped over the ropes and Trick like ran off the back of Oba and hit Javon with a trick shot. And that was an incredible spot. I didn't know what was going on. There was another moment where Javon Evans was able to hit that flying cutter that he does so well onto both of them. And it was just amazing. But the finish came pretty much with Oba pretty much what he ended up doing was trying to remember the end of the match. It was crazy. I'm just gonna say it was crazy because and pardon me because I'm trying to like remember things that happened Saturday and it being Tuesday. It's just a lot. But I will say another notable moment was Oba did catch Trick Williams like trying to do like an Alabama slam on Evans, and Trick picked him up and ended up doing a Samoan drop on both of them. That was crazy. He also hit them with a stacked vertical suplex where Trick was about to do a superplex onto Javon, and then Oba lifted him up, and then they pretty much just dropped him into the electric chair style while Javon Evans took that superplex, and wow, yeah, amazing. And let me see. And he's calling it the OG cutter. That's the name of Javon Evans's finisher, OG cutter. So yeah, it was crazy. And then Trick ended up taking out the referee after Javon hit Oba with an OG cutter. Like Oba kicked out, but then Trick pulled him out and then pretty much took the ref out in a ref bump, which it's a triple threat, so it's really like no rules. But yeah, and then I think what ended up happening is that Oba sent Javon Evans to the barricade. Trick ended up giving him the bookend on one of the announcers tables. I will say that Trick really showed himself tonight. Like if you give him an opponent with a large repertoire, and then he'll start pulling some stuff out that you haven't seen yet. I think it's pretty much based on who your opponent is. And Trick really did show out. He started pulling out moves that we haven't seen him do at all. So big shout out to Trick for his development. Oba understands wrestling. He just understands it. And then Javon Evans is that dude is a star. And I will pick him as the next NXT champion when that time comes, because dude is only 20 and he's doing a crazy amount of stuff. So anyway, that was NXT Stand and Deliver, or WWE Stand and Deliver. Oba ended up winning by hitting both of them with the Fall from Grace powerbomb. He hit, I believe, Javon Evans onto Trick Williams and then hit him again, and then hit Trick Williams again with a sit-out Fall from Grace in order to retain. So overall, I got to give this show a B+. That match itself was an A. And I think I'm lowballing here. You know what? I'm going to change it. Stand and Deliver gets an A- for me. A-. Really, 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 really good showing for the wrestlers down at NXT. Now, let's talk about night one of WrestleMania 41. First match, Jey Uso versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. Jey had a crazy entrance where he had people coming in with the flags and whatnot and waving it all on the ramp while he entered through the audience. It was crazy because he also had a DJ on top. I believe it was Valentino Khan, I believe was the DJ. So yeah, crazy. Yeah, and then of course Gunther just came out normal, like he was strict to business and whatnot. This was probably Jay's best singles match, and it might come off as maybe a little average for Gunther, but I think that the pace is where it needed to be. You had Jey not only pulling out different moves, but you also had him attempting to do a lot of Gunther's moves as well in order to keep up. And one thing that I also liked, it was the psychology of this match, because you saw that Gunther was chopping him, and this man Jey was just laughing like, nah, it might hurt, but give me more. Like, I'm used to this. Like, I grew up with a whole bunch of Samoans, bro. You don't think we can like take it on the chest? So that part was crazy. There was one moment where I think everybody has different opinions on, and that was how the end happened. Now, obviously, Jay was able to hit 3 of the Uso splashes and then decided to put Gunther into the sleeper slash rear naked choke. And a lot of people were upset about this, but Gunther tapped out and he tapped out pretty quickly. And Jey Uso was now the world heavyweight champion. Now, I don't have a problem with the finish. Why? Because I've seen Gunther do that before, in which case his match with Ilya Dragunov, when Ilya had him in that sleeper and literally lifted him up off the mat into it, Gunther immediately was like, no, tap out, tap out. And I think that builds into the lore of Gunther that when he's in control, he's in control. But the moment that he sees that he's not in control, oh, he's getting out of there. He would rather tap out than pass out. And I think that's kind of indicative of Gunther's character, that he can be this all intimidating final boss, but the moment you exploit a weak spot and vulnerability on him, that's it. Dude is just gonna he's gonna crumble. So I think that that's a really interesting plot twist that they've added. And if you have not seen Ilya Dragunov versus Gunther, or at the time he was still going by his real name, Walter. But if you have not seen Ilya Dragunov versus Walter for the NXT UK Championship, and I believe it was on NXT Takeover sometime in either 2020 or 2021, go and check out that match, and you'll see what we're talking about when I say that this is not surprising seeing Gunther tap out quickly. A lot of people I know didn't watch NXT at the time, so they probably will have different opinions of it because they think that it makes Gunther look weak. But I think that this is just one of those things where Gunther's not looking weak. It's just that Jay had to dig deep and overcome all of the odds in order to make it happen. And he exploited a chink in Gunther's armor and took advantage of it. Plus, this was get back for what Gunther did to Jimmy by beating him up. So overall, I did not have a problem with the match at all. I grade the match as an A. Some people might see that as controversial, but I don't. I think that it was a great opener. It had great storytelling. And honestly, this was a crowning moment for Jay. So if you include all of that, the build up to the match, which finally got going after Jimmy got attacked, you see the celebration at the end, and of course the celebration on Monday night. When you pack everything into that, I think that it deserves an A. I'm not going to put it like an A minus category, but I think that it's still a match worth watching. Here we go. New Day versus the War Raiders. This match honestly should have been on a random Raw. And that's no shade to the New Day. New Day are a phenomenal team. War Raiders are a phenomenal team. They have decent chemistry enough in the ring. It's just that really nobody cared. And a lot of people thought that it would have been better if you had the SmackDown Tag Team Championships up for grabs in that TLC match. And you would have 6 of what we're now calling the SmackDown 10 tag teams, just having an absolute car crash for those tag team championships. Nope. But instead, we got the New Day versus War Raiders, and it ends with the New Day actually winning kind of clean, but not really, because at the end, they hit their daylight special move, and then what ends up happening is that Kofi holds down one of the legs while Xavier makes the pin, and then they kind of just hightail it out of there. So, it wasn't like a fully clean victory for them, because there were some spots where they played dirty, but the match was fine. Honestly, the match was fine. There was nothing wrong with the match. It didn't have the hype behind it, didn't have the crowd in it. And unfortunately, that can really deflate a match. But overall, the match was okay. There was nothing wrong with the match itself. I think it could have been better served to be on Raw. And then you have the tag team championships on SmackDown be up for grabs. So overall, the match itself from a technical standpoint gets a B, but I think overall it's probably going to be a C, if I'm being brutally honest. The next match we have is Jade Cargill versus Naomi. Now, I think that this worked perfectly for Jade. Naomi is a good partner in the ring, and clearly Naomi was carrying, but that's not to say that Jade has not been putting in work. She's been putting in so much work. She is not as sloppy. She's not sloppy anymore. There were some spots where I was kind of like, whoa, but she's not as sloppy. She's more confident in her moves. You can see she's more confident in her character. Jade is really, really, really being like solidified. And this match, I believe, went 10 to 15 minutes. So this wasn't like a 5-minute squash that you used to have on AEW. No, like this was a legit match. And there were certain things that I thought were crazy. Like, for one, Jade grabbing Naomi into leaping Naomi into the vertical suplex. That was crazy. You saw like Naomi hit a impressive face, but like or I don't want to call it face, but it's an X Factor. She pretty much had like Jade's feet on the ring apron, and she hit that X Factor onto the floor. That was nasty. There was also and it wasn't a vertical suplex, by the way. It was a jackhammer. She literally caught Naomi and then turned it into a jackhammer. So shout out to Jade. Shoot, they hit Naomi tried to dive again, and then Jade caught her midair, hit that big follow-away slam. There was one point where they were on the top turnbuckle, and Naomi was trying something, and Jade reversed, but then Naomi hit like that top rope bulldog. That was crazy. And then there was one spot where Jade had Naomi in the electric chair position, popped her up, turned her around, and hit a phenomenal power bomb. I was like, whoa. And then, of course, she ends the match with Jade and gets the 1, 2, 3. So Jade ends up walking out victorious. I had a lot of hope for this match, and this match delivered on that hope. It's not like it wasn't a crazy, crazy technical masterclass, but I think that this match really, really was really, really good. Jade has come such a long way, and Naomi is one of the most athletic women to ever grace a wrestling ring. These two women put it on, and it was the only women's match that did not have a stipulation or did not have a title involved. And it's the first kind of women's match like that on WrestleMania in 19 years. So shout out to Jade Cargill and Trinity Fatu, aka Naomi. They put on a great match. I am going to give this match a B plus. This is almost an A. There just a couple spots needed to have been cleaned up, but this was a B plus, deserved. Jacob Fatu versus LA Knight. This was one of the matches that I think really, really, really was better than I thought it was going to be. I knew that it was not going to end in the squash. You have to let LA Knight get some kind of offense in. But Jacob Fatu looked absolutely unstoppable. He looked like a monster. There was one spot, of course, where Fatu was coming off that mighty moonsault attempt. And while he was midair, he literally got caught in a BFT midair. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. That was crazy. But of course, he ended up being right near the rope. So he was able to grab it to break up the pin. But at the end of the day, Jacob Fatu hit LA Knight with 2 mighty moonsaults. And Jacob Fatu is now your new United States champion. This match was really, really good. Like, really, really good. LA Knight shows that he can do more than just, what people are saying on the internet. The dude can really go in the ring. And you just gotta admire Jacob, man. He truly is that mid-sized monster. Like, nothing can phase him. There was one point in the match where LA tried to end it early, and he tried to hit a BFT, and Jacob literally put his hands on the ground and stopped it. It was kind of like the same thing where when Ricochet worked for WWE, that he countered the RKO by pretty much making sure that his hands hit the mat before his face did. So I think that really, really are some of the bigger highlights of the match. But overall, that match itself, A-. A-. Now that I'm looking back at it, I think night one had some higher moments than I gave it credit for, but there were certain matches that kind of really, really, really pulled it down. I think I will say that the New Day and the War Raiders match pulled it down. The next match that I'm about to talk about kind of pulled it down because it was a little too quick for my liking. And then a match that I'm going to get to here in just a moment that is really, really yikes. Anyway, you got El Grande Americano versus Rey Fenix because Rey Mysterio ended up being hurt on the SmackDown prior, so they used Rey Fenix. And of course, it wasn't a clean win, but El Grande Americano ended up winning. There was one point where he put the metal plate into his mask, and Rey Fenix hit his goodbye amigo kick, and he, of course, hit the plate, so it hurt. And then he tried to do a move off the top rope, but he ended up falling victim to a headbutt with that metal plate, and then El Grande Americano hit the diving headbutt for the win. Now, there was one instance where this man, El Grande Americano, I don't want to get it wrong, he's not Chad Gable, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but he hit a crazy moonsault that it really wasn't a moonsault. It turned into like a 450 type moonsault, because he literally did the moonsault, tucked back, and landed on his back to hit Ray Phoenix. So, yo, that guy, I'm going to say, that's not Chad Gable. He can go in the ring. I just wish his gimmick was a little better. But anyway, I did not want Ray Phoenix to lose that early, but I think it was clearly obvious that El Grande Americano was meant to pin Ray, but they put Ray Phoenix in place for a match that was hastily put together within a span of 24 hours. I think that it was really good, kind of short, but again, due to circumstances, obviously, that's what ended up happening. And yeah, El Grande Americano actually won the match. It's a B. It's a B. Just wish it was longer. Here we go. Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair for the WWE Women's Championship. Now, surprisingly, they did not put the belt on Charlotte. Tiffany ended up winning. That's cool. But the chemistry between these two was not good. Like, it was just, ugh. I don't know what it is about the actual match itself, but it just felt like there was like literally no chemistry in the beginning. I don't know if they were trying to slug it out for real or not, but it just felt really, really sloppy in the beginning and in the middle of the match. Now, towards the end, when they were starting to get to the finish, things looked better. You see that Tiffany was doing her best to be sure that she would not get caught in the figure 8 leg lock, and she would continuously target Charlotte's knee. And then it just, for me, it didn't click. Something didn't click about this match. And I personally while I'm glad that Charlotte didn't take the belt off Tiffy, I'm just like, the chemistry between the two just wasn't there for me until the very, very end. So the very, very end will pick up the grade a little bit, but I think that this match is a C. And then finally, we have Seth Rollins versus CM Punk versus Roman Reigns in the main event. No championships involved, just 3 men duking it out because of their hatred. Real hate is back. Best match of night 1. It absolutely delivered. I implore you, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch. The actual storytelling in the match was great. The shenanigans at the end were great. Everything leading up to this was great. Now, WrestleMania is always known for its, stellar entrances. We had Seth come out in all black. He was using the flamethrower and whatnot. The lights go out, and then he comes out in all white like he's supposed to be Jesus. I thought that was really cool. Roman just came out. He had nobody beside him, but he came out to his own music and a lot of pyro, obviously. And then shout out to Living Color for coming back to WrestleMania and doing the Cult of Personality for CM Punk. And this performance topped the one that they did years ago. And I believe that was for WrestleMania 29. So, yeah, they did a phenomenal job. And I just, shout out to Living Color. The match itself, great. Of course, we got before we do that, I meant to say that they had a video package for CM Punk as well, which is why I thought he was winning. So, yeah, it was crazy how this all ended. We even saw, like, during CM Punk's match that, Paul Heyman gave him like a kiss on the cheek and whatnot, which, if you know your biblical history, you know what that could signify, but we'll get there. Honestly, this was great from start to finish. You had them fighting into the crowd outside of the ring. You had Roman do a great dive over the barricade into the crowd to knock out both of them. It was crazy. CM Punk hit both Reigns and Rollins with a neck breaker DDT combo. That was smooth. Then, of course, Rollins hit a running pedigree. Then, of course, hit the stomp. This was just crazy. Then there was a spot on the outside where Rollins was trying to convince Roman, let's take out CM Punk and let's do it like on the announce tables. And it looked like Roman was going to fall for it, but instead he hits Rollins, takes Punk, slams him through the announce table, takes Seth Rollins and slams him through the Spanish announce table, and they both collapse. So like we got double power bombs through the table. That was crazy. There was here's the sequence, and I'm actually have to read this because this is what happened. So Punk had, let's see, come back. He got a guillotine. He countered Roman Reigns' guillotine with the Anaconda Vice. Rollins ended up breaking up. Reigns countered a sharpshooter that was put on him by Punk. Okay, let's see. This is so confusing because I'm trying to break it up. Let's see. So after he countered with the Anaconda Vice, Rollins broke it up. Reigns ended up countering a sharpshooter attempt by Punk, and then put a guillotine on Rollins. And then this is what ends up happening because this is crazy. Then Seth Rollins gets hit with a GTS. Then Roman hits Punk with a spear, and Seth bounces off the ropes from that GTS. They hit a stomp on Reigns, and yeah, this was crazy. Then we get to the end game. Paul Heyman looked like he was just struggling. He decides that he's going to give a chair, and he gives the chair to Punk. And then Paul Heyman low blows CM Punk. And then he yells at him saying, why would you ever put me in that position? That's my tribal chief. Gives the chair to Roman. Roman continuously hits CM Punk in the back with the chairs, just like how Stone Cold continuously hit The Rock on WrestleMania 17. I remember that callback. Then Seth Rollins is standing up, getting to his feet. Paul Heyman points to Rollins saying, hey, look, my tribal chief, remember the Shield? This is your chance to hit him in the back with the steel chair. And as Reigns is about to do it, Paul Heyman then low blows Roman Reigns. And I guess I'm assuming that's because of the treatment in the last couple weeks that Paul Heyman had been suffering from. So at that point, Rollins just stands up, has his hand out. Paul Heyman hands him the chair. And then Seth Rollins hits Reigns in the back with that chair, hits a stomp, gets the 1, 2, 3, and Seth Rollins wins. And now seemingly Paul Heyman has aligned himself with Seth Rollins, and willingly at that. I did not predict that ending because I sincerely thought that they were going to go the route of Paul Heyman accidentally costing one of them the match, and Seth Rollins ends up being the victor, while Paul Heyman is like in shambles, like, what did I just do? I can't believe that I, caused that to happen. But instead, Paul Heyman willingly betrays CM Punk, his best friend, then betrays his tribal chief, and has now aligned himself with Rollins, which, if you watch Monday Night Raw, you see that there's some building going on. So that triple threat match, best of the night, A+. And so now that I've gone back through WrestleMania 41 Night 1, the highlights of the night were obviously the main event, the triple threat main event, the Jacob Fatu versus LA Knight for the U.S. Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship match between Jay and Gunther, and I'll even give Jade Cargill and Naomi like a highlight as well. The other three matches, you had the New Day with War Raiders. Yeah. El Grande Americano versus Rey Fenix was good. Then you had the Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair, which in my opinion was probably the worst match on night one. And so with that, night one was actually pretty decent with a stellar main event. Don't let people tell you that like the undercard of this match was dog shit. It was not. The undercard was actually like was good. It was fine. So with that, I'm not going to give a grade on night 1 because I'm going to give an overall grade for WrestleMania 41. Let's talk about night 2, and then we can end off right there. So night 2 started off with a bang, and I mean that with a bang. We had the first match of the night being for the Women's World Championship. We had Io Sky versus Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley. Now, I hate the way that y'all have booed my baby Bianca Belair. I hate that. She was right. There was nothing like that she did that was wrong. She was in the right the whole time. She earned her spot into the Women's World Championship match, and Rhea carried her way in. So what are we doing? Y'all are booing Bianca. Why? She's right. I don't get it. But as it turns out, Bianca played into it. She played into the heel role because obviously that's what she got stuck with when Rhea should have been the heel. But I think that on Friday night, they kind of cleared it up with Rhea coming out and saying, hey, look, instead of blaming Bianca for causing her to lose the championship in the first place, all she said was, I let Bianca distract me, and that's my fault. I should have never let her do that. So Rhea took some accountability, I guess. But either way, this was the best match of night 2. The women put on an absolute banger. Like this, if there was goodness, if there was a 5-star, if I did the 5-star rating, then I would definitely give this match 5 stars, like bar none. Dang, I can't even talk. The match was just really, 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 really good. Like you had the power of Bianca and you had the power of Rhea, and then you just had the overall fluidity and the high flying Io Sky. It always kept the match going. Not once did you get a segment where it was just 2 of the women involved and the others taking an extended rest. These 3 were absolutely going at it. There was a point where Bianca was hitting back-to-back suplexes and just rolling through back-to-back suplex, pick Io up, march around the ring, suplex. I don't care how much y'all out there are booing Bianca. When you cold, you cold. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely amazing. What ended up happening, obviously, from the results of that was Io Sky ended up retaining the Women's World Championship. And I gotta say, this was this was like the triple threat matches this weekend were crazy. You had the triple threat match on NXT that was by far one of the greatest matches that I've seen on NXT in a while. Then you had the crazy triple threat main event at night 1, and then you get this phenomenal triple threat for night 2 to start off night 2. This was wow. One of the big things we saw Rhea Ripley do a razor's edge by tossing Io into Bianca. Sky ended up using like an arm drag to counter the avalanche riptide from the top rope. Then she missed the moonsault on Belair, and then Belair ended up hitting the KOD onto Io, but then Ripley broke it up. But then the end came where Bianca ended up hitting Rhea with the KOD, but then Io Sky comes and does the over the moonsault onto both of them, and then ends up pinning Bianca for the victory. Now, that is the first time that Bianca has been pinned at WrestleMania. So, unfortunately, the streak of Bianca never being pinned at WrestleMania is over. But still, Io needed to win this match for a storyline perspective, because what really was the case behind the story was Bianca and Rhea fighting, because Rhea was carrying her way into the match, and you can see the seeds building like, eventually we are going to get Rhea versus Bianca in a one-on-one. And I cannot wait to see that match. And I'm hoping that's next year's WrestleMania, or maybe even a SummerSlam down the line, since SummerSlam is going to be 2 nights as well. So that match, A+. Great opener. Next, we have the Sin City Street fight between Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. This is the only one that had a stipulation other than being a multi-man match. And this was an absolute car crash as well. Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest absolutely beat the snot out of each other. Like, no lie, they was going blow for blow, hand in hand. Like, they was, oh goodness, this was crazy. There was one point where Drew took his phone and did another selfie to a down Damian Priest and said, "Still bored at work." And of course, that tweet went viral. So Drew's character work is phenomenal. This was just great. This was great. At one point, you had Damian Priest give a razor's edge to Drew McIntyre through a table. And the end came where Damian Priest tried to go old school, but then Drew pushed Damian off the ropes to 2 tables on the outside. And then finally, there was a chair that was set up in the corner. All he did was put Damian Priest's head in that corner next to the chair and then gave him a claymore that, yeah, and that was the end of that. Drew McIntyre ended up being the winner, which I think was the right call. I had Damian winning because that was my guy, but I'm not mad that Drew McIntyre ended up winning. So overall, I'm going to give that match an A. That was really, really good match, and I think that they played into it really, really, really well. Also, Damian did give him a razor's edge through the announcer table, so there's that. All right, we next have the Fatal 4-Way for the Intercontinental Championship, and this Fatal 4-Way included the champion Braun Breaker versus Dominic Mysterio versus Finn Balor versus Penta. And shout out to the Lucha Brothers, man. They actually got a chance to both do a WrestleMania match, and Rey Fenix literally just got here, and he's already on WrestleMania, and now Penta was involved in this match. So both of the Lucha Brothers, they deserve it. They deserve it all. But anyway, this is a really, really quick Fatal 4-Way, but it was still really, really good. I really enjoyed the back and forth that they had between these 4 men. Some of the highlights, of course, Balor and Mysterio didn't come out together. They came out with their own separate music. Breaker, goodness gracious, Braun Breaker, that man is a monster. And if you watch Monday Night Raw, you see what he set up for. And I just have to say that Carlito, more props to you, man. You literally died twice. Carlito was, of course, involved trying to make sure that Finn or Dom win. And this man, Braun Breaker, went from one announce table and speared Carlito through the other. I was like, yo, okay, all right. This was that was crazy. There was one point where Mysterio ended up actually, I don't want to say betraying Finn, but he betrayed him in this match. He kicked him. He tried to do a 619, and Balor caught him and was just like, oh, so this line is over now, right? And just started stomping on him. The end of the match came, of course, with Breaker ended up getting hit with Finn's final moves, the sling blade, the shotgun drop kick, and then he got hit with a coup de grace. But then who but Dominic Mysterio comes flying off the top rope with a frog splash. He hits it on Finn. He pins Finn Balor, and now Dominic Mysterio is your new Intercontinental Champion. So I never would have imagined that Dom would be as over as he is. That man went from being a really disgusting over heel to now you have people cheering him. And I think this is kind of the opposite of what they wanted to do for Judgment Day, because I initially thought that they were going to turn Finn face and, bring back the Demon in order to feud with Dom. And as it turns out, they may still go with the Judgment Day breaking up angle, but I think the way that they're going to do it is eventually Dom is going to turn face, whereas Finn finds a way to remove him from Judgment Day before they all split. But I just liked seeing this match. And of course, shout out to Dom. He's finally caught his first main roster title. And the way that the crowd was over for him, man, like, yeah, cool. All right, so I'm not gonna excuse me, I gotta get the match grade. B+. Yeah. So then we had Randy Orton, who said that he needed an opponent because obviously Kevin Owens was no longer there to continue the blood feud because Kevin Owens has to go and get some, neck surgery. So prayers and thoughts out to Kevin Owens. Randy Orton came out and said, okay, who's going to be my surprise opponent? And surely enough, say his name and he appears, the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, Joe Hendry came out and did a bit, and that crowd loved him. He is so over, man. Shout out to Joe Hendry, bro. He's done it. Now, because this match was hastily put together, obviously, it wasn't going to last long. Joe Hendry did get some offense in, but one of the funniest shots is when he did the little turn around to smile at the camera, and then Randy just comes out of nowhere and immediately hits him with the RKO for the 1-2-3. So this match wasn't that long. I don't really want to give it a grade because it's like it was kind of just there for the laughs. But still, despite that, I will say that the match itself, if I had to give it a grade, it's probably just a C, just for the laughs. But I'm not really counting that in the overall scorecard because this was really just a moment for Joe Hendry. And I'm glad that not only did TNA get that spotlight, even for just a moment, but Joe Hendry proved that he is over everywhere that he goes. And honestly, I think that if he ever decided to go to WWE, they would want him because he has proven that he can do this, and he's proven that he can shine under the bright lights. So yeah, it's obviously Randy was going to get the win. He even picked up Joe Hendry and was like showing him to the crowd, like, "Hey, the crowd is reacting to you. They love this, and this is your moment." Before laying him out with an RKO and then doing the turnaround bit and doing his little pose. So shout out to Randy being a good sport, and shout out for Joe Hendry. Now let's talk about AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. Boo, tomato, tomato, tomato. The match itself was fine. There was nothing wrong with the match. I think card placement really is what really killed the momentum of this match because we just saw Joe Hendry in the crowd pop for it. Meanwhile, nobody really cares about Logan Paul, and we see that AJ is on the back half of his career because eventually he is going to retire. One part of the match that we saw was we did see that one of Logan Paul's goons did try to slip him some brass knucks, but Karrion Kross came out and stopped that from happening. And then he tried to convince AJ Styles to use it, but AJ threw the brass knucks away, saying he's not doing that. That opened up the door for Logan Paul to come hit his one lucky shot and then hit his new finisher, the pulverizer, onto AJ for the win. I knew that they were going to give Logan Paul the win on this one. I don't like it, but it is what it is. But overall, the match itself wasn't bad, but was it WrestleMania worthy? No, it's not. And I don't know why I just did a gunshot because it really didn't deserve that. I think I just did it for my response. But anyway, the match itself was definitely the weakest match so far before we get to this main event. But still, the match itself from a technical standpoint wasn't bad. And again, Logan can show that he can go, but you can clearly see that AJ is starting to slow down a little bit and starting to do more protective moves. And I think he was a good dance partner for Logan, but honestly, the crowd wasn't invested in this match. I'm not invested in this match. I'm not invested in Logan Paul. Yes, he can bring eyes to the product because it's Logan Paul, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't care. Why do I care about this match? I don't think the build was all that great either, but that's just my personal opinion. You might have a different opinion than me. If so, great, good for you. But for me, this match just didn't do it. This match didn't do it. All right. The WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. I'm gonna give this one, I'm gonna say B- because obviously the match itself was fine, and I think that their match on Monday Night Raw was better, much better. But really, what ended up happening is someone attacked Bayley backstage, and Lyra ended up choosing Becky Lynch as her tag team partner. And I'm trying to think of if there were any like real highlights other than the pop for Becky Lynch. But yeah, this match didn't really have like anything spectacular about it. And like I said, their Monday night match was even better, which yeah. But anyway, just to get to the end, Becky ends up hitting the manhandle slam on Liv for the 1-2-3. So Becky Lynch and Lyra became the women's tag team champions, and Lyra now held at the time both the tag team championship and the women's intercontinental championship. Now they ended up dropping the titles back to Liv and Raquel the very next night, and Becky ended up turning heel on Lyra by attacking her after the match and then hitting her with 3 manhandle slams. So honestly, I think they won just for the WrestleMania moment itself, because storyline wise, it doesn't make a lick of sense. And then unfortunately, Bailey seems to be the biggest loser out of all of this because it was supposed to be Bailey and Lyra, but I guess they've, the management wanted a way to bring back uh Becky Lynch, and I think that they thought that this would be the perfect spot for her, and I guess they are going to try and turn her heel. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know. This was just kind of there. I think the match itself was fine. I'm gonna give it a B minus, but from a story perspective, I don't know. It just didn't work. But I guess with Becky turning heel now, there's more intrigue into it. But now Lyra has her first real actual feud, and then you can have legit tag teams actually go against Liv and Raquel instead of like a makeshift tag team. It just kind of bothered me that the Liv and Raquel had to drop the titles in order to, I guess make a WrestleMania moment when honestly they could have just won, and then you have Becky turn on Lyra at that particular time. That would have built more intrigue into the feud starting out. And then you can think to yourself, well, what if Becky actually was the one who attacked Bailey, quote unquote, which I think is the angle that they're going with anyway. But still, I'm like, yeah, for the way that we got here, with Bailey and Lyra going through a gauntlet tag team match just to get to that match, just for y'all to pull Bailey, I'm giving that an F. The build gets an absolute F for that. But for the match itself, B minus. It was fine. And shout out to Becky Lynch for returning, though. She's not getting away from the Becky Hogan allegations. I'm just going to throw that out there. She's not. And then finally, we had the undisputed WWE Championship match between John Cena and Cody Rhodes. And when I say that this was by far the biggest disappointment for all the hype that this match had, I don't know what to say. John Cena didn't come out to any colors and whatnot. It was just a black screen with his name in bold letters, John Cena. So that just proves that, he's not doing like any of the gimmicks or the colors or anything like that. It came out in black. Shout out to Cody Rhodes, who came out with it would look like motocross or somebody. I don't know what that team is from Vegas. I guess they were all I don't know, like Evil Knievels, because they were like hopping over the road, off over the ramp and whatnot, and then they kind of like lined up, and then you see Cody pop out of the Cody Vader with a new mask that pops open like Iron Man. I thought that was cool, but yeah, and then the crowd was really, really unfortunately booing Cody, and they were cheering John Cena because obviously everybody wants John Cena to get number 17, and they want heel John Cena to thrive. But ultimately, I think that's one of the things that took away from this match. Also, it's clear that Cody is the carrier because when people say John Cena can't wrestle, I'm not saying that he can't wrestle. He just can't wrestle as well as Cody. But still, the match was very, very slow paced at times. And then, of course, you had John Cena, was doing his 5 moves of doom, but he would hit the shoulder block, wait, taunt, hit another shoulder block, wait, taunt, then do his protoplex. And then he was like, before he went to the You Can't See Me, obviously Cody reverse. He finally got him down, did a You Can't See Me to the audience, which ended up being another reverse. The psychology was there, but I don't know. Then, of course, the ref ended up taking a bump. And before that, John Cena hit Cody with like multiple attitude adjustments, and Cody Rhodes kept kicking out. So after the ref takes a bump, obviously Cody hits the crossroads, but there's no ref to count. Then Cena finds his way back up, takes advantage, and then Travis Scott comes out, but there's no Rock. It's just Travis Scott. So it was just kind of like, okay, what's the point? It's really strange. Then you had John Cena take advantage of the distraction. Obviously, Cody tries to attack Travis. He jumps off the ring. It's another attitude adjustment, tries to put him in a couple of STFs, and they don't work. And I'm just like, it's the fake STF, not the real one that he put Punk in. So I thought that he was going to do that, but he never did. Cody ends up getting rid of Cena, and then he was able to hit a crossroads onto Travis Scott. And then Cena brings the belt in. Cody was able to wrestle it away. Mind you, the ref is still knocked down from this because Travis ended up pulling him out the ring, which I don't know why that's not a disqualification. But anyway, and you see Cena like begging, please don't hit me. Please don't hit me. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. And then like Cody who was threatening to hit him with the belt, let his guard down, gets low blowed. John Cena gives him the belt shot, throws the belt out the ring, gets the referee in the ring. 1, 2, 3, the match is over, and John Cena has number 17. And that match, the end of the match was so anticlimactic. There was multiple ways that you could have done that without it being a belt, like the belt shot being the thing that wins. No, and this is, I don't know, this is me fantasy booking, but this is what I would have done. Obviously, after the belt shot, I would have went for the pin on Cody. Cody kicked out. At that point, if I'm seeing, I'm like, man, nah, F this. Hit him with the attitude adjustment and immediately put him in to the real STF and make Cody pass out. If you make Cody pass out at that point in stage, then it's just like, well, he couldn't really do anything because he actually got him this time. The low blow, the belt shot, another attitude adjustment, and the STF, that would have made Cody look stronger. Instead, you just hit him with the belt after the low blow and Cody's done. When Jey Uso survived a belt shot from Gunther the previous night, and Cody has survived belt shots before. So this really just made the ending look entirely weak. And then the fact that The Rock didn't even show up made it even worse. Because I thought that he was supposed to be part of the storyline. And then when you like actually hear his reasoning on ESPN, it doesn't really make any sense. There were no plans for him to be involved in WrestleMania, apparently. It's just like, what? Then why were you involved if there were no plans to use you? What? Come on, Dwayne. Come on, Dwayne. Make it make sense, man. Make it make sense. Why? It's like when we don't want you involved, you're involved. And then when we do want you involved, you're not. What are we doing here? Like WWE, as far as the writing for this week's WrestleMania, they were on something. I don't know if they was on some laced weed. I don't know if they did shrooms. I don't know if they did any other hard drugs out there because they were in Vegas. They had to have done a few bumps or a few lines before they put this show together or at least put the main event together, because that main event was so deflating. Now, I'm happy that Cena got number 17, but this was just like, this is so clunky and so anticlimactic. This should have been a bigger moment for Cena, a heel Cena, doing like more than just, the nut shot and the belt shot to win. I would have been like, nah, hit him with another AA, hit him with another AA. Now I'm putting you in the STF, and now you can't move because I've pretty much not only knocked you out, but I made you pass out in the middle of this ring. That would have been a stronger finish. Instead, we got this. And I don't know. What was the whole point of asking Cody to sell your soul and then having John Cena be the one to do it and then not even being involved? Last year's WrestleMania had so many pop-ins and so many surprise pop-ups to help with that final match between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. Like, yes, it was a bit hammed up, but it was cinema. It told a great story of Cody finally being able to finish his story. There was a story here that you could have gone with Cena becoming more brutal in order to win 17. Yes, he cheated, but he could have also been a brutal heel. Like, you know what? Not only am I cheating, I'm also going to do everything I can by any means necessary to make sure that you do not answer this pinfall or do not answer when I tap you out. But we didn't get that. It's like, and then on top of that, of course, Michael Cole was hammering home the fact that Rhodes didn't do what needed to be done, because there was a point where he could have hit Cena with the belt, because yes, Rhodes has done that before in his matches where he Alabama slammed Kevin Owens through the ladder, or he hit AJ Styles with those steps after the I Quit match. We could have told that story that way, but we didn't. Instead, we got this. That match is a D. It's an absolute D. And it put a pretty big damper to what was otherwise a very solid Mania. So, yeah, those are my grades for every single match of WrestleMania weekend. if I had to give WrestleMania 41 a grade overall, not just the final match, but overall WrestleMania for me gets a B minus. It was fine. It was solid. You know, there have been way worse WrestleManias than that. Way worse. I'm talking 9, I'm talking 11, I'm talking 27, I'm talking 32, I'm talking 34, 33. You can probably throw in there, with the exception of it being a one-man match. There have been terrible WrestleManias. WrestleMania 4, WrestleMania 2. WrestleMania 41 was not that bad. Don't let the toxic internet wrestling community try to damper that or try to fool you into thinking this is a terrible WrestleMania. And people saying, "Oh, this is the worst WrestleMania ever." No, the main event of night 2. Okay, yeah, that was bad. The Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair match, that was bad. The War Raiders and Kofi Kingston, that was in. But overall, the matches themselves, and in total for WrestleMania 41, it was fine. I didn't have any problems with it. I still enjoyed myself, except for at the very end. I thought the end of night 1 was stellar, and the card was pretty good. And then night 2, the undercard was amazing, save for that AJ Styles and Logan Paul match. But the main event was underwhelming. Yeah, the main event of WrestleMania 40 was very overbooked, but this one was very underbooked. So I got to call a spade a spade. That's how I see it. WrestleMania 41 was a solid B minus. And there's really not really much I can say about that. If I had to actually give it like a number grade, because I know this is probably not a number, I'd say 7.5, 8 at the highest. Nothing to write home about. Am I going to watch WrestleMania 41 again? I might watch some matches, but I'm not watching the entire thing again. It's not like WrestleMania 40 where I went back and I watched that. So overall, very solid week for WrestleMania weekend. Some controversies here and there because, of course, you had the roast of WrestleMania that happened immediately after night 2. And please don't involve Tony Hinchcliffe in anything else ever again. One, that dude is not funny. Two, from the footage that I saw on the roast, it's just like, no, wrestling fans and like roasts like that don't belong together, because you've got a lot of toxic fans out there that are going to say some very insensitive things. You can joke about and roast another person without being completely insensitive. Even if you cannot do that, then you're not funny. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Also, a shout out to Wale Mania. I heard that this was the last one, and I'm so disappointed that I didn't get to go. I really wanted to go to Wale Mania, man, and I thought that they were going to do it in NOLA, but I guess they're not. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning into this episode, and thank you for watching the review show for WrestleMania 41. Hopefully, I'll have the Triangle Offense back up here next so we can talk about our feelings about WrestleMania, and it might be a bonus episode that you can check out on Patreon. But anyway, those were my thoughts on WrestleMania 41. Overall, a solid Mania. The ending was kind of it went out on a whimper, but I think that Mania itself was not that bad. I think that it was fine for what it is. It's a very quality, I don't even want to say quality, but it was very mid Mania. And there's nothing wrong with mid Manias because we don't get a lot of those. Either the Manias are like really, really good or really, really bad. And this Mania was fine. It was just middle of the road Mania. So hopefully 42 will be better whenever it comes around. The next time that you see the Triangle Offense, I'm not sure. It'll probably be for Money in the Bank. And then we may do one for Evolution because there's a rumor that WWE is bringing back the Evolution pay-per-view for the women. And if I'm them, I would absolutely do that and take advantage, because these women out here, especially in the WWE, they are cooking right now. Like, they are cooking. So shout out to the women's division of WWE. Anyway, guys, that's my time. I'm not going to do the rundown tonight. Just because I'm tired. I also am a day late, so I wanted to get this out as quickly as possible. And I'm hungry. I just, finished making food, so I gotta go eat. But anyway, please be sure that if you're watching on YouTube, that you once again like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Please tune into the Chaotic Culture Podcast on all your favorite DSPs. Of course, you can listen to us through Apple, through Spotify, through iHeartRadio, through Amazon Music, whatever your platform may be. Also, please be sure that you subscribe to the Patreon for more bonus content. That is patreon.com/Chaotic Culture Pod. You can subscribe as low as $3. Once again, I appreciate your support. You can follow the page at Facebook at Chaotic Culture Podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram and Threads at Chaotic Culture Pod. You can follow us on X/Twitter at Chaotic Culture 1. You can also follow us on Blue Sky at chaoticculture.bsky.social. You can follow me, Ked the Pro, that's K3D the Pro, on all social media. Of course, you can follow my co-host Law at L.JR_96 on IG and Law96_ on X/Twitter. You can follow Miss Sappy at Scraps14 on all social media. You can follow Miss NASA at I'm Nakasa on all social media. Goodness gracious, that brain lapse there. You can follow Scuba Steve at Scuba Steve 1428 on all social media. You can follow Jay at Jaylee Trey on all social media. And this has been another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. So until next time, folks, remember, embrace the culture, chaos rules, be blessed, be safe, God is love, and we are out of here. Deuces.
So what's the word?
You are now tuned in to the Chaotic Culture Podcast. And